Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Post-Fades and Cheesesteaks, joined by myself, Dakota, and Timothy, of course. How are we, Tim?
Good, good. Can't complain. We're British sports are happening. We had the British Grand Prix, the Wimbledon.
Oh,
So
hmm.
this is what you think sports are dry over the summer over America, like, when you just have baseball. There's not really much here. Baseball's tough to keep up with when you're
Hmm.
5 hours ahead, let alone when you're, in the States. So I have watched zero Wimbledon, but I acknowledge that it's on. The train is a little busier.
Fair.
And I didn't know the British, Grand Prix was going on until the race was over. But we're keeping in touch a little bit. We're trying.
Uh, yeah, I was gonna say we don't really cover racing, but maybe that's something we got to dabble in. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things like I never give it a chance, so I don't want to bash it too much, but it's like what do you talk about really? Like it's five minutes that matter. It's a whole bunch of nothing until those 5 minutes. Like I mean, I like what you do in the first hour. I don't think really affects the last 5 minutes of the race. I could be wrong, but
Hmm.
I feel like you just all got to be in the same area throughout the whole race, and then someone's got to make something happen in those last 5 minutes. But maybe I'm wrong. So if I'm wrong, if I don't know anything about racing, and someone can explain to me that what happens in the first hour of the race is crucial to what happens in the last 5 minutes, please let me know.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched racing here and there. Like, I mean, I've seen NASCAR, I've watched F1, like GT racing, Le Mans, and all that. But like, I it's kind of crazy to me how long those races go.
It's just
Like
too long,
because
way too long.
one mistake and you are like you almost can't make it up. Like you're screwed.
Uh,
So it's
That's what I
like,
mean. It's 5 minutes. That's like there's really not much to talk about. But
yeah,
I something I would take for viewing purposes.
okay.
What is the best race to watch on TV?
Oh, like
Easy question.
is it, like you say the horse races?
Of course, it's Kentucky
Okay,
Derby.
yeah,
Everyone's favorite race to watch on TV is the Kentucky Derby. You know why? Because the Kentucky Derby, every second
ten
of that is
seconds.
exciting. And it's so exciting. But that's what racing is. Even in the Olympics, when Usain Bolt was running, he wasn't running for an hour. No one cares about marathon runners. They care about the
Mm,
sprinters.
that's fair.
If they, and I don't want to ruin the sport for everyone. I don't want to cut out their commercials and whatever. If they could cut it down so that maybe it was like a 20 to 30 minute race, so much more entertaining.
Yeah,
That I could get into. It's too long for, a short period that matters.
yeah. I feel like that's something like those kind of things are like kind of like baseball, where you would like put it on the background. You're not really like intently focusing on it. Whereas like I can't put football on in the background. I'm like just checking the TV every time, you know?
Well,
So
yeah, it's true. I mean, it's a fast-paced sport that you can put on the background. Like baseball's a slow game.
yeah.
It's easy to put in the background. Racing is completely different. It's meant to
Yeah,
be
no.
fast. It's meant to be
Yeah.
like keep your eyes glued like you would football or like basketball or even soccer.
Yeah, agreed.
But hey, we talk football, so I digress. But something to keep an
Yes.
eye on. If I don't know what I'm talking about with racing, please let me know. But I think that if you could cut it down to like, I don't know, 20 minutes, completely different sport.
Yes. So we are a mostly football podcast. So this episode is discussing the top 10 tight ends in the NFL going into the 2023 season. We've gotten through quite a bit of my Wi-Fi router just fell. That's interesting. We've gotten through quite a bit of positions so far. We have about six or so left. So we're getting close. We have about 8, 9 weeks till the NFL season. I think it's like 60 days or something, or 50
Getting
days or something.
close. They're done, I think, mini camps. I think the guys that still want contracts are still kind of holding out. Still
Yeah,
that drama. So, we're still in that contract drama period
it's
and
kind of
some free agents.
yeah, it's kind of wild. I feel like every time that like the Super Bowl ends, everyone's like, "Oh, no football," and then it's like honestly, it's like a month until no football, and then it's like we have the combine, and then the draft, and then and free agency, and then there's a little bit of a lull again, and then like it starts getting hype again in like July, leading up to preseason in August. So, God, thank God it's
That's
back. This is the
Oh,
best
we're
sport
getting
in the
there.
world.
We are in the lull. We are definitely in the lull right now.
Yes, but so yes, back to the topic. Top 10 tight ends. Not too hard of a top 10 to put together, I would say. There's it's one of the positions where there's like clearly elite talent, and then there's like, they just rotate a different tight end in every year on some teams. Um,
Yeah,
so and I feel like tight ends is also kind of like running backs, where it's just like they'll kind of rent a tight end and then they'll
Well,
move on
unless
to
you have
somebody
an
else.
impact, yeah, unless you have
Right,
an impact tight end.
right.
I will
But
say, of all the positions we do, and we haven't done all of them, but I think this one, and ironically, it's a pair of teammates. This position, tight ends and quarterbacks, were the only unanimous, obvious, no one was going to question it, number ones. No,
I would think so, yeah.
and it's just it's funny how that works because the guy you know, throwing the ball and the guy catching the ball is like the only position groups where truly sure. Some of them have like, you think it's this one, but as we've done it, I think, there's more debate. These tight ends and quarterback, there is no debate. It's very obvious. These are the number ones. If you say anything different, you're wrong. Your opinion doesn't matter. It's this.
Yeah, and I'm curious when we get into our list, but I feel like even our top five should be fairly similar as far as players who are in there for tight ends. But
Well, hey,
we
only
will
one way
see.
to find out.
We will see. So let's start off with if we have any honorable mentions. I just have one, so you can. I don't know if you want me to
Go
start. If you want
ahead.
to go.
Go ahead. You start my ginger
Okay.
friend. I have two, so I'll let you get right into it.
You have more than I do. That's a first.
Mhm.
Um, this guy is someone I thought was kind of going to be a rising tight end in the league, but I feel like last year it was numbers were a little down, and his team also just drafted a tight end. So I don't know what's up with that. But Dawson Knox in Buffalo, I think, just outside my top 10, but he's had some good years for Buffalo and for Josh Allen as a support guy there. But um, yeah, I don't know. I think he's right on the fringe. He's not like a elite tight end, but he's a pretty good tight end. So just outside top 10 for
No,
me.
funny you say that because I actually also have Donaldson Knox as my honorable mention,
Ah, okay.
and you actually hit it on the head because a guy I also like, and I feel like everyone's waiting for him to take the step, and he's in such a good position. I mean, Josh Allen's throwing the ball. You have a number one bona fide superstar wide receiver. Gabe Davis, very solid, great university alumni, number two wide receiver.
Hmm.
Play behind a good offensive line. Like you should be better than what you are. You're not bad, but you should be better. And I think that's why they went out and drafted Kincaid so high
Yeah.
because they all waited for this jump and it never happened. Where Kincaid probably can make an impactful jump. So that's kind of why I have my honorable mentions. And I think the Bills probably see it the same way.
Hmm.
The other one I went with was a guy I think me and you have already talked about quite a bit off camera. Was a guy who we thought was a bum. I mean, I did. Change scenery.
I
I
still
still
do
think
think he's a
he's
bum.
yeah, I mean, I think he's more less of a bum than you do, but the change of scenery helped. He played pretty, had his arguably his best season. He looked
Hmm.
much better, so I went with Evan Gingram.
Yeah.
Um, I think,
The
listen, he
numbers
fits
don't
in the
lie. I
offense.
give him credit. His numbers were good, but
He fits in the offense with them. He's going to grow. Like him, Ridley, Kirk, Etienne with Lawrence. Like it's a nice offense they're putting together. So I give him props. He's not in the top 10 yet. He could. I have more confidence in like Ingram making a jump than I would like Dawson Knox, but we'll see what happens. New scenery, he put it on, he played pretty well, so he's not in the top 10 yet, but he's honorable mention.
fair.
So where are you starting with on at number 10?
So my number 10 guy, I don't have to necessarily hate anymore because he's no longer a Dallas Cowboy.
Hmm.
He now goes to a Houston team with a rookie quarterback, and that is Dalton Schultz. I think he actually was he developed a lot better than I thought he would when he was with the Cowboys. His last season was not as great as his previous seasons. Um, he had the 2021 season, he had 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. This past year was just under 600 and 5 touchdowns. So bit of a decline. He also only played 15 games, but his yards per reception has been pretty consistent at around 10, which is I think good for a tight end because they're doing those, short routes, little slants here and
Yeah.
there. But yeah, I think he's a good player. I think he's got the perfect build, 6'5", 240 for a tight end. He's not going to blaze you with speed, but I think he's a good player. And I think with Houston is kind of rebuilding that offense, they kind of need some youngish talent that's like kind of at
Well,
the peak of their skill
well,
right
he'll
now.
get
So
plenty of
yeah,
chances. I mean,
yeah.
they're going to throw every ball to him probably. I have no argument there. I have him on my list.
Okay.
Not here right now. So my number 10. This one I'm Solid tight end. He's definitely not lived up to the expectations everyone's been waiting for, but I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of it has to be, due to his circumstance and his settings. He's been
Okay.
on a team that really hasn't had an effective passing game since, I don't know, like you've been alive.
Ah.
So coming out next year, I mean, he's going to finally have a full season with easily the best quarterback I think this franchise has ever seen. So, but he's never been bad. He's solid, and he actually pass blocks really well. PFF gave him a 76,
Hmm.
and big dude. He can play. He can catch the ball. So I'm going to go with David Njoku,
Okay.
who only being 26. I mean, he's going to play a full season with Watson. He could be breaking out pretty big here, but I had to keep him at 10 just because he had lofty expectations and he hasn't really come close to sniffing it. But I think this year he could really kick down the door. One guy that I think is much higher on this list next year, it's him.
I will say I'm like in the same Dalton Schultz vein as yours. I also have him just a little higher. So
Fair enough. You went with potential over production. Interesting.
I know. Your master
That's
classes
not
have been
usually.
brainwashing me. So
Geez, look at us changing roles. But all right, that's listen. No argument there.
all right,
So who do you have at your worst single digit?
my worst single digit. Um, so I wasn't sure if this was too soon for this guy, but I think this team has a good track record of producing pretty solid tight ends. Um, and he just last season, 6 in receiving yards. Touchdowns were only 2. So I mean, granted, he really didn't have a great quarterback, but
Hmm.
and 6 in receptions. So Pat Fryermuth of the Steelers here at number 9.
I'll let you continue, but I'm gonna just say I also have Pat Fryermuth at number 9.
Okay, okay.
Another young guy. I like where he's going. The
Hmm.
offense isn't really explosive, so I think his development's tied to that. But yeah, no, I think he's gonna be really good. He pass blocks really well, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he's like a genuine tight end. Again, I don't know, 6'5", 250. Again, this is what tight ends are supposed to look like. Um, Played 16 games his rookie year, had 500 yards, 7 touchdowns. Then had a nice little jump up to 730 yards. Again, touchdowns were low, but Steelers offense was pretty bad last year. Um, but yeah, his receptions went up, uh, yards went up, yards per reception went up. So that's the kind of progress you want to see in a player. And the Steelers are kind of weird. I don't know. I feel like they've always been a run team, but they have had a pretty good stable of wide receivers the last 4 years. So I feel like they're a little more pass happy when Big Ben was there. But now I think
Well, you had the quarterback to do it.
right now, who is it? Pickett is the quarterback. Um, so I think they'll probably transition more to like running game and short throws and stuff like that. So I think Freiermuth will get more involved. I think Najee Harris will probably have a better year, maybe, but we'll see. But yeah, I think good young player on the rise. A lot of these tight ends are younger, so
Fair enough. I mean, I actually take the opposite approach. I think the Steelers are going to try to throw it a little bit more.
mm,
I mean, look where Najee Harris. I've seen bowling balls be dropped out of buildings and they drop slower than he's fallen off.
Jesus.
I mean, I love George Pickens. Deontay Johnson is, I think, a very good talent.
Pickens is
Has
a
been bad.
beast. Yeah.
Pickett showed you enough last year, I think, to be optimistic this year with him. So I think I think they're going to throw the ball a little bit more. At least if I'm the Steelers, I'm thinking about that. You got two not good really good wide receivers, and Firemouth, who I think could be really strong in the pass game. He blocks really well. He's a good young player. I again another guy that I think could be a lot higher on this list when we do it next year. And I'm just going to go ahead and put the over under on how many times you're going to put out measurables and tell me how they look like a good tight end at like 5, because we're at 2 already. You are like one of those draft analysts tell you about like quarterback hand size and right left tackle's arm length. So you're really looking into the body shape of these tight ends. This was an important part of your rankings, I see.
Well, I hope you're ready for my number 8 because I'm gonna hit you with it again.
Oh, please, please go ahead, get right into
So
it. I don't
so
want to hold
number
you up now.
number 8, a guy you just mentioned a little couple bit ago, David Njoku. Again, 6'4", 240, perfect build.
There's there's 3 for anyone counting at home. That's 3
um, no, I think you said a lot of good things. Like he's been definitely a disappointment. I think he was a former first or second round pick.
first, yeah.
Yeah. But hey, man, I there was times when like it looked like Cleveland was trying to get rid of him. He wanted a fresh start, this and that, but he stuck through it. He finally had a better season. He had a good second year. Um, and then his, third, fourth, fifth season, he was injured and didn't play a lot. Then finally played, I mean, still only played 14 games this year, but in 14 games, 600 plus yards, four touchdowns, 10.8 yards per reception. So he also was just more active. I feel like when I was watching like highlights of the Browns games, like you could just tell he was a bigger component of that offense. I wonder if that's just Amari Cooper's there now. Maybe he's freeing up more space. I mean, they had that two-headed monster with Kareem and Nick Chubb. So he's improved as a blocker. He's always been a super athletic tight end, and we saw a couple circus catches last year. So I
Yep.
think same reason I kind of had Deshaun Watson in my top 10. It was like I'm looking ahead and thinking they have had this time now. Maybe there's some bonding going on there. So looking forward that they'll play better and he'll have a good season. Now, will he be Travis Kelce level? No, but I think he'll
Well, no
play.
one will be.
Well, yeah, but I think he'll get close to 800 yards, maybe six touchdowns, and be a reliable target for the Browns, which is a team like I have no idea where they're going to finish because they could be horrible or they could push for playoffs. They're such a coin flip. So
Well, I mean, it comes down to your quarterback who you haven't really actually seen play like real
yeah,
football in like 2 years. I don't really count
fair.
what he did last year to just stretch his legs and get, acclimated as like real serious stuff. Um, but no, I mean, I do. This is his best moment of his career. He's only 26. He's
That's what
not
I'm
very,
saying. Yeah,
he's got
he's
plenty
he's
of,
been in the
yeah,
league
he's
for a
got
while,
plenty
but
of
he's
time.
he's still young.
Yeah. So actually, I'm going to mark this as a special moment in my list because this is my like I don't know what you would say like my checkpoint. The last two, I had Fryermuth and Joku are two young guys who I'd like to see do a little bit more, which I'm optimistic with.
Okay.
My number eight, now my number eight is a guy that has been very consistent, who I haven't seen take the leap, where these other younger guys haven't been as consistent, where
Okay.
the guys ahead of them have shown me that leap. They've shown me the excellent play, but have not done well recently. But consistency wise, I have Dalton Schultz at number eight.
Okay.
2 year stretch, he was 70 receptions, 711 yards, and
Hmm.
consistent. He was very solid, but that was with Zeke still in his prime, great offensive line, Amari Cooper. Last year, the Cowboys desperately, desperately needed someone to step up in that passing game. CeeDee Lamb was awesome, but they desperately needed someone to step up, and that was Dalton Schultz's worst year in the last 3 years. And it's definitely a red flag. You got more of an opportunity. Your team desperately needs you, and you kind of came up a little small. Are you more of a product of the system, or are you more of a guy that can go on and be the leader of a system?
Hmm.
Obviously, he's going to go to the Texans. I'm sure his numbers are going to be great because he's going to lose, 13 games, but get, like 15 targets a game.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's just he had his opportunity, like the opportunity we talked about with Njoku. He had it, and it just wasn't there. He had the big volume. They needed him to step up, and he didn't do it. He's obviously a new team. He's been too consistent not to put him on the top 10, but this is my little checkpoint because this is now past the guys I'm looking ahead to, and now a couple guys that are my next two who I'm looking behind and seeing what they used to do to remind me of how good they could actually be.
It's an interesting transition there because my number seven is fits right into that description of had a couple
Oh,
really, really good years, and then the last 2 years he's been injured, very underproductive, and now he's on a new team. God knows how that's going to go. But Darren Waller here at number seven for me.
hmm.
I think he's he really cemented himself as like a I know when we first started these lists, like he was up there back in what 2019, 2020, 21. Like at 21 season he got injured I think at the end of the year. So he only finished with 11 games, but he was on pace for like the same amount of yards and stuff. But then last year again, more injuries, couldn't finish the year. Stats were low. So we'll see. I mean, he was averaging 13.9 yards per catch last year, but who knows if that would have continued. He only started 6 games. Um, but Yeah, the Giants are weird. Their receivers kind of underperform. Obviously, they have Saquon, who's a beast. Danny Dimes is always a question mark.
To say the least.
But Darren Waller's been a pretty good tight end since he got himself, fixed up. Um, so we'll see. I'm not expecting, prime Darren Waller, but I think he'll have a nice rebound season. It'll be decent. Good for that team. So,
No, listen. You fit my segment so well because I don't have Darren Waller next, but he is part of this two-part segment. So I am going to
oh,
skip you and just roll through both my two parts because they
sure.
go
Why
well together.
why
So
not?
before I get to Darren Waller, I'm going to go with another guy who, again, last year did not have a good year. You could make an argument, honestly, that this guy was the second biggest disappointment last year in football. Behind like Russell Wilson, obviously. No one had a bigger disappointing year than him. But you could arguably, and
Hmm.
I would probably take the argument, he had the second most disappointing year going into the season. Super athletic. I'm sure you're going to tell me all about his build, his athleticism, his size, and all that. I can't
Oh,
wait for that to
I
happen.
forgot to do that for Darren Waller. Six
But
six
if
two
you
fifty
talk
five for
about,
Darren Waller.
but yeah, thanks. Yeah, if you talk about like empty stats, like I think Dalton Schultz will have with Texans,
Hmm.
considering how bad he was last year and how inconsistent he was, I know he was hurt. You can't help but think his rookie year may have been a little empty stats as well. Because Kyle Pitts was horrific last year. He was hurt.
Okay.
I get it. The system wasn't very good. I understand. But like, dude, you're supposed to be a playmaker. Did
Hmm.
you like you came out, you kicked the door down your rookie year. We were all drooling about you coming into the NFL. You were the greatest tight end anyone's ever seen. I'm sure Dakota just couldn't get over the fact that you were 6'6" or whatever you are. But like
6'6",
you,
246 pounds.
how yeah how find me another player that regressed so badly than Kyle Pitts last year, not named Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Like if you're this generational talent, like everyone said you were coming out, this I don't want to hear the scheme. I don't want to hear the production, everything because David Njoku, he's not lived up to the hype, but he's put up some solid seasons. He has never
Yeah.
fallen backwards as much as Kyle Pitts, and David Njoku is much better blocker than Kyle Pitts is. Kyle Pitts
Agreed.
is a pass catcher, and that's about it. So, dude, you need to find a way to catch the ball. He's only got 3 touchdowns in his whole entire career. That includes his great
Which
rookie
is
year.
which is wild. How he only had one touchdown his rookie year.
See,
That's
this is
crazy.
listen, I'm not going to give up on him, but I'm also going to take a little pessimistic route on here. And I understand you probably have him a lot higher than I do, but
Mm,
you can't help but think maybe these are little empty stats from that rookie year. Maybe it was, we have this generational guy, no one knows about him. We're just going to throw the ball 100 times his way. Because once everyone got some tape on him, I know he got hurt and he was a little banged up, but he was nothing special this year,
mhm.
nothing at all. And he's above a guy like Dalton Schultz because I think his upside is better, and I think his rookie year was arguably better than anything Dalton Schultz put together.
Uh,
I mean, he's not higher than Darren Waller, who I have next,
so
because
wait,
Darren Waller.
so actually, I'm gonna do a little Uno reverse here because I have I have Kyle Pitts at 6. So
Wow, look at us, we're on
we just
top of
flipped
this.
Waller and Pitts.
Okay,
Um,
well then you know what? Hold on, I
yeah.
want to hear your rebuttal on Pitts because you actually I thought for sure you were gonna have him higher.
No, I feel like I was one of the few people who was like excited about Pitts, but like I wasn't like it's the same thing. Like all these rookies that come out now that everyone's like, oh my God, they're gonna be so good. I'm just like, it- how many times have we seen college players who are so good just not able to translate it to the NFL because it's a different game. It's faster. It's more, there's more that goes into it. It's not the same style of game. Um, but Kyle Pitts, like you said, came out rookie year, 1,000 yards, 15.1 yards per reception. I mean, one
Yeah,
touchdown. We don't not sure what's going on there. And had 68 catches. Played and he started 15 games. This past year, he only started 10 games. But like the drop off is crazy. He went down to 28
yeah.
catches, 350 yards, 12.7 yards per reception. So he lost, you know, 2.5 almost yards per reception. And his longest was only 30. He's not making big plays. So I mean, I don't know if it's the change in quarterback that kind of affected his play.
I
I
mean, the
mean,
dude had what?
I
Marcus Mariota, or no? He had Matt Ryan's noodle arm, and corpse out there. I mean, it wasn't like he had Patrick Mahomes.
Matt Ryan's
Now hold on,
corpse.
I want to actually completely different position,
Oh, so we're just
different player, but
what are we even
but
doing?
hold on, I have someone I want to bring up as a comparison to Kyle Pitts. You let me know. Is it a
Okay.
similar career path, or is this a worrisome downward spiral,
All
Kyle
right.
Pitts? So I'm going to take a guy like Saquon Barkley, generational draft prospect, came out, lit the world on fire his rookie year. The next year, granted, it wasn't as bad as Kyle Pitts' second year, but then it was solid. He had 1,000 yards, just 1,000, like 1,003. But then after that, he was obviously hurt all year, and then the year after that, he was obviously banged up. Really wasn't very good. But his system changed. His offensive line was really bad. They really didn't start making it better until I don't know 2 years ago. Do we think Kyle Pitts is on more of a Saquon Barkley train here? Maybe he's just too good of a talent that even if he gets hurt and the team's not great around, he will eventually bounce back and figure it out like Saquon did this past year. Or is this a listen? He's a super athlete, but it's there's a bigger problem here. Maybe he's not this. Just put him on a team and play like Saquon pretty much can be when he's healthy.
That I don't I think Saquon's trajectory is better, but I don't think Pitts is going to be a bust by any means. I just think
But no, he has to be like one of the greatest tight ends ever to be like he fourth overall. He was drafted tight end fourth overall. Everyone was oogle and ogle over him. He was the greatest tight end prospect to ever come out. Like, sure, Saquon was drafted second overall and he was a generational running back, but Zeke was a top five pick. He, who was the running back that just got drafted this year? Bijan Robinson again is another generational running back prospect. Like, these guys, they're more common. These superstar running backs, high draft picks. Kyle Pitts is a one of one. There's never been a tight end that's come close to what
I
he was supposed to
well
be.
I'm trying to think like do we have we had I mean I guess Tony Gonzalez is an example, but have we had players that at the tight end position that are the by far the best player on their team, but their team sucks and they were still able to produce? Because like we see that with like running backs, like they're all on shitty teams, but they'll like still put up numbers. But I
I
don't
mean,
like how dependent is Kyle Pitts on having a good quarterback? Like you could have anybody behind center. If you're a good player, you're gonna make a play. You know what I mean? But
I
I
mean, Vernon Davis is another name. Yeah, I don't think they were good
he was on the shitty
some of his years,
Niner
but
teams. Yeah,
there were some. I mean, I know they went to the Super Bowl and he was there and they were really
yeah,
good, but I don't know. There were some bad teams there
there
too
were.
mixed in. I mean, like we were talking about beforehand. We talked about how tight end is not a historical position. Like a
I know,
guy
but
like Zach Ertz is probably a top 15 tight end all time.
I'm
But
think
because how
I'm
many of them are in the
thinking
last 20 years?
yeah, I'm thinking that a lot of the best tight ends in history like typically had pretty good quarterbacks though. So I
I
mean
mean,
Gronk had Brady, Kelsey has Mahomes. I mean Zach Ertz had Foles and Prime Wentz. It's
that's like I love Nick Foles more than I think my firstborn child. But let's not get ahead of
I know.
ourselves. We
I
know
don't
who
know.
Nick Foles is.
I
Don't
was
give me
just trying to
prime
I
Wentz.
said Ertz and I was like
I mean, like outside of those two, I mean, where do you have? I guess I don't know. Philip Rivers, Tony Romo. These are your next realm of guys. I don't even know who
I mean
was throwing
Tony
the ball to
Romo
Tony
and
Gonzalez.
Jason Witten was a good one. And then yeah, I mean Gonzalez didn't really have anyone. Then he had Matt Ryan in Atlanta and
I mean,
uh
these weren't guys that like were killing the world. They weren't Mahomes and Brady.
yeah, I think you had Dallas Clark and Peyton. I don't know. I feel like a lot of times they were like tandems. But to answer your question, I don't. I think Saquon's career will end up being better than Kyle Pitts, but I don't think Kyle Pitts is going to just fall off the earth. I think he'll rebound. Will he be as electric as rookie year? Probably not. But I don't know. It's just hard to tell with that position. I also don't think he's going to
Yeah.
finish his career in Atlanta. I think he'll go somewhere else after his contract's
Oh,
up.
well, hey, all right. Well, we're jumping like 2 years in the future here. Dude's still on his rookie
Hmm.
contract here before you ship
I
him off.
mean, I don't
But I'll
know.
roll us. So my number six
Yeah,
obviously is Darren Waller. Difference between Darren Waller and Kyle Pitts, both super athletes. I mean, what's he, 6'7"? I don't, get you all giddy about the height and all that. Um, Definitely
Darren
pass
Waller.
first guys.
He's
Doesn't
six
really do too
six.
much in the blocking game, but listen, he had 2 solid years. I mean, ever since he turned his life around after he left the Ravens and got his role in the on the Raiders. He was pretty consistent there. I'm a little optimistic. I think he's actually gonna be pretty solid with the Giants. Danny Dimes is who he is, but factoring now you got Saquon, a solid offensive line, which is kind of crazy to say with the Giants, but they're
Yeah, it's
offensive line has come a
better.
long way. Um, I mean, wide receivers are, still leave something to be desired, but they have some young guys that could do something. I think there's potential there for him. I think he's in a pretty decent spot. I feel better about him going into this year than I do Kyle Pitts.
Fair.
So
I don't
who's
know.
your top five?
Yeah, I'll just say Kyle Pitts. I think it was just a lot of overhype for him because of, like you said, where he was drafted and what his expectations were. But he'll, if he doesn't figure it out this year, then I would get concerned. But if he returns close to rookie form, I wouldn't be too worried. But so what, we're cracking top five.
Yep.
So sounds like we have a similar top five. So we'll see if they match up. But I'm gonna go with a guy here that um for fantasy purposes has kind of let me down. Um but he's been a good player since he got into the league. I mean, I think also he's kind of underperformed at times. He was also supposed to be a bit of a generational tight end. For another former
Hmm.
first round pick, I believe. Um, Probably the most head scratching trade of last season, when Detroit shipped him off to the Vikings. But I have TJ Hawkinson here at number five. For you, Tim,
Funny. I
6'5", 244.
Thank you, thank you. I also have T.J. Hawkinson at number five,
Oh, okay.
and
Very nice,
I'm
very
I'm
nice.
gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna let you talk about his game because there's only one part of this thing I want to discuss, and you've kind of touched on it. That trade, I do not understand what the Lions do.
I
Like, I get it.
There had to have been
Listen,
some kind of beef or something was going on with his contract because it doesn't make any
when,
sense.
but when you're the Lions, you're a bad team. You draft very highly all the time. Like
Hmm.
Hawkinson's, I think was like a number 8 overall pick or whatever.
Yeah, I
The
think it was
guy
top
was
10.
showing. I mean,
Yeah,
the
he
guy
was
was
eight.
showing some
Yeah.
promise. The guy was showing some promise in that offense last year. That offense was really good last year. Goff looked like he was flourishing with an Amon St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, him. Like, I don't understand what the point of trading him is. Your team stinks. You have no one on
Hmm.
that roster making money. How do you not have money for TJ Hawkinson? The guy is 25. Like
Yeah.
the Lions, if you have all these draft picks, like I would make sure that they are on my team. And at the last possible moment, they can't do anything, then fine. We move on. But I don't know. In the middle of the season, that's when you move on from. Don't get it. They didn't really get much for it. Because you know what it reminded me of? Another move
Yeah, it
they made
was.
that scratched my head. I don't understand why they moved Jeffrey Okuda. They got what, a fifth round pick?
Yeah, that was.
His best year of his entire career was this past year.
Yeah, I don't
And then you
understand
move
that.
him? The dude has been a top five. It was third overall pick for you. He's been
Yeah,
a bust his whole career. Finally shows some promise and stays healthy, and you move him then
for all
for
the good
like a
things the
fifth and a
Lions.
sixth.
Yeah, for all the good things the Lions were doing,
I
then
don't
they
get
just
it.
shit the bed with some of these trades. But
But it's like your team isn't very good. Like you don't have any contracts that are holding you down. Let these young guys who are,
uh,
I know Hawkinson. He didn't really start taking off until he went to the Vikings, but I thought he showed you enough to want to keep him. The guy has always been a good blocker. Your offense was producing very well. I don't understand. I don't get I didn't get that move at all. Him, St. Brown, um, the young offense, that offensive line that they're building. I thought they were going to draft a quarterback, but obviously they turned out to be it didn't work out for them in the draft going that way. But I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why you wouldn't want to keep that core together?
yeah, I don't know. That whole offense was gone through a bit of change. That like the running back complete change now. They have David Montgomery and Jamal Williams, and last year it was DeAndre Swift and
Well, they just drafted a guy. What's his
or
face?
not Jamal Williams. He's gone. Yeah, the guy they drafted.
I
But
forget I'm blanking on his name, but it's just like, dude, it fits your timeline. Like he's 25. What timeline? Like if he was like 28, then sure, yeah, I could understand that. You guys aren't gonna be there good for a while, but he fits your timeline. I don't really understand it. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah, I'll also say this is the second time this episode you said I'll let you speak about it, and then you completely just spoke about it anyway. So,
To be
but
fair, that's a low
that's
number. I usually do much more.
but I his stats this year were like this was his best season by far. Like finished second in targets, second in receptions, second in receiving yards, and fifth in touchdowns for tight ends. really good stats, but I have him here at 5 just because of inconsistency and injury concerns, right? Like he only played one full season. Um, yeah, he played 7 games, then he played 16, then 12, then 14. Um, Yards per reception have been pretty consistent between 10 and 11. Touchdowns could be better for a tight end, but I feel like tight ends are always hard to gauge on that because it depends on how the offense uses them in like the red zone and stuff. But I don't know. I think he's definitely top 5. I think with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, that's a good little trio right there. So he should be able to do more damage now, but we'll see. If he has a down year, I'll start getting suspicious. But if he can replicate last year and then better, I think he's back on track to being the tight end he's supposed to be. But yeah,
Hmm.
you just gotta stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a good system. Yeah, obviously he had his best year of his career, so that just makes it more head scratching why you would trade a guy in the middle of the season who just had the best year of his career. It's not like he was doing nothing before he got traded, but I don't know. I mean, obviously the Lions went a different way. I was mostly furious when they made that pick trade because I thought you were easily taking a young quarterback in the draft
Yeah,
with either your pick or the Rams pick, but obviously that didn't turn out that way. So I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me. He's obviously a top 5 positional talent. The guy blocks really well. He's a good pass catcher. He's definitely one of the best tight ends in the league. So I don't know why you trade him in the middle of the season for peanuts. But he's in a good system. I'll leave it alone. You touched on him actually going into next year, where I just kind of ranted and raved about his trade from, you know, 10 months ago.
yeah,
So,
no,
but good player. He's definitely a top 5. I think he's actually going to be even better than when he was last year.
yeah, I think so. I think he'll be good. Moving on, my number 4, a little bit of a fan favorite here. There are concerns of, again, like I mentioned with Hawkinson, consistency. Um, he hasn't been able to stay healthy very long. He hasn't played a full season yet, or at least started a full season. There was obviously a guy in front of him for a couple years, but I have I'll give you the measurements: 6'5", 256 pound tight
Wow.
end for the Philadelphia Eagles, Mr.
Those are some
Dallas
big
Goddard
measurements. Oh, you were excited saying them. I could see the excitement in your
from
voice.
South Dakota State Jackrabbits.
You just like the fact that he went to a school with your name in it.
Oh, I don't care about that.
Oh, come on.
That
You're
would be
you,
like
you
that
have
would be
two
like
states named after you.
that would be like me like owning a Dodge Dakota truck. Like, why would I do that?
Well, the Dodge Dakota truck is a pretty, hefty commitment. Just appreciating the state of South Dakota, I think completely different.
Well, I mean,
I
there's
will
two
say,
states, but yeah,
I don't like how, the we're missing the fireworks this episode because we keep
oh, tight
connecting
end.
on
We always do
picks.
on tight ends.
Yeah, so I also have Goddard at number 5. I
Damn,
mean, I think it's just he's been solid. I mean, he's gotten better every year.
he's
The more opportunities he's gotten better and better.
he's one of those players that when he is on the field, he's one of the best at his position, but he just misses games. Like, it's just a fact. Like, he played 12 games last year. I mean, he was on pace for just under 1,000 yards. Um, but he his last 2 seasons, I mean, the numbers are great. 50 plus catches, 700 yards this year, 800 yards last year. He played 2 more games. Touchdowns could be better, but he's
That's the
also
one downside.
phenomenal. He's also a
His
phenomenal
whole
blocker.
career, yeah, his whole career, he's not never had touchdown numbers. I'm like
No,
surprised looking at it. Never had more than like 5. But yeah, no, the
yeah,
blocking is exceptional.
he's probably if not the best, one of the best, like, three-way, as in like pass block, run block, catching tight ends.
Oh yeah,
Which is a lost art with a lot of these other tight ends. You know, besides a couple of the ones we have obviously higher. But yeah, I mean, I think I love the guy. I think he's like, again, true tight end, just physical, run you over guy. Again, not gonna blow you away with speed, but he's just evenly got some quick steps to him. Um, Loves a good stiff arm. But yeah, I think if he could just stay healthy for a full season, he would eclipse 1,000 yards. I mean, even in this offense with Devontae and AJ Brown, he was still producing over 700 in 12 games. So I think like numbers wise, we don't need him to do well, but for his stats, like it looks better. But He's great when he's
I,
healthy. That's really all there is
I
to it.
mean, yeah, I mean, he's definitely your dream tight end is a sixth offensive lineman in the run game and a 1,000-yard receiver in the passing game.
Yeah.
Him, TJ Hawkinson's another guy, George Kittle, who's going to be on this list. Those are probably the only, like, there's only a handful of tight ends who could do that. As great
Hmm.
as Travis Kelce is, he's not blocking in the run game as well as, Dallas Goedert or George
Yeah,
Kittle is.
it's fair.
There's some tight ends who are phenomenal blockers who could not catch a ball that was handed to them.
Hmm.
So I think his real strength comes in his balance. You're right. He's unhealthy. He's
Yeah.
doesn't play enough solid games, but in the role he's in, it fits so well in the offense. I think he's the easy top five talent who you never know. He keeps. I don't. I think he's fully elite when it comes to blocking. If he can just up his passing game, become more consistent, he could be even find himself in the top three easy.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying. If he could just stay healthy for a full season, like the sky's the limit. I think I think athletically, Zach Ertz was a better tight end, but I think as an all around tight end, Dallas Goedert's got a little bit of an edge over Ertz in that aspect. But um, yeah, it's just nice to have like one great tight end to another great tight end as an Eagles fan. So,
It's true. Gotta love that.
but so number three, I feel like we have the same 3-2-1 since we had the same 5 and 4. But
We have the same top five.
yeah, I don't know why I said it like that, but
That's right.
um.
Numbers.
So this guy actually fits perfectly as my number three because he was third in receptions, third in receiving yards, third in targets, seventh in touchdowns, which was kind of a surprise for him because he's had such a great couple seasons with lots of touchdowns for this team. But I have Mark Andrews here at number
Hmm.
three.
Well, this is going to be boring because we've also hit on that one too.
Oh
So we're
god
going to have
damn
the
it!
same exact top five.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about.
Ugh. Oh, this is. I mean, what are we doing this for 3 years now? This is the first time that I think this has ever happened.
Yeah,
We've had that whole top five.
yeah, but
But go
eh.
ahead.
Three-time Pro Bowler, one-time All-Pro. Oh, let me check his 6'6", 256 pounds.
Wow, there you go. That's another one for you.
And for you metric heads out there, 116 kilograms.
Yeah, yeah. We don't do that here. It's just not a thing. This the Celsius. No, the metric system's stupid. Celsius is the stupidest thing though when it comes to
I
conversion.
feel like that's the only like everything else makes sense, but the Celsius things I've
It's so dumb. It's so stupid. It's
yeah.
just there. You know what it is? There's way too much negative. Like if I told you -1 without even thinking, if I could took you off an alien planet and just said it's -1 out, you probably think instantly, oh, it must be really cold. Here,
Yeah.
like a -1, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's cold, but it's like, I don't know, like 30, 40.
Yeah,
I could
that's
be
just
off,
stupid.
but
That's so
I
stupid.
haven't I haven't figured out the whole Celsius system, but it's a stupid system. I constantly have to transfer it to Fahrenheit. I've gotten the kilos down. The kilos I've gotten down pretty well. Celsius is not one I can figure out.
Yeah.
But
But
enough of our metric system
and
and Celsius
yeah,
talk.
yeah. Anyways, so another great year for Mark Andrews. I mean, his career has been pretty good. I mean, even his rookie year was decent for he only started 3 games, but he played in 16 and he had 500 yards, 3 touchdowns. Um, and then as he went on, started making a Pro Bowl, and then 800 yards, 700 yards, 1,300 yards 2 years ago with 9 tutties. Obviously 2019 he had 10 touchdowns, 2020 he had 7, last year he had 5. So like he's consistent. Last year in 15 games, 847 yards, 5 touchdowns, 11.6 yards per reception, and he's a fairly good blocker. I wouldn't say he's like Dallas Goedert and Kittle level, but he's a pretty good blocker. And he fits like with Lamar Jackson perfectly. I feel like they have such good chemistry. Um, so he'll just continue to be a demon in the red zone as well. So yeah, I think I I wanted to put Goddard ahead, but I just couldn't justify it based on numbers. So, but
No, I agree with that. I mean, he's an elite pass catcher. Mark
mhm.
Andrews. I mean, the fact that the Ravens have consistently missed on just free agency wide receivers, draft wide receivers,
They can't pick
and
a
there would
wide receiver for the love
oh
of them.
not at all. And you know what? Whoever the GM is, I think it's still Dakota, should be thanking Mark Andrews every single year because The only reason, and don't get me wrong, that he does get a little hate for it, but the only reason it doesn't become like a five-alarm fire, like of just disappointment and rage, is because Mark Andrews is so good. He
Hmm.
is a number one wide receiver. He covers up the fact that you can't sign or draft a wide receiver to save your life. He's that good. Um, I mean, he is the passing game in Baltimore. I think now that the only difference, because now we're splitting hairs, he's such an incredible pass catcher, but I think I mean, I don't, let's say he's a bad blocker. I think, the Ravens run the ball so well that I think everyone has to block. But I remember seeing something, I think it was last year, that he had run like 196 routes and zero pass, zero run blocking or pass blocking snaps. Just didn't
Really.
block a single snap. He went and ran nearly 200 routes, but didn't block a single snap. And I think it's just one, they don't need him to. It's not part of their game style. Two, they desperately need him to go out there and catch balls.
Felt
So
like he has to.
yeah. I mean, I think there's potential that he could block like a Goddard or Hawkinson. He could be that dream tight end, but he's just it's not asked for him. But I mean, he's incredible. He's a top three talent. I mean, he is an all pro tight end. Historically, he's going to be a top 15, top 20 tight end all time, I think, too.
Hmm.
If he stays
Yeah.
on this pace, there's really nothing holding him back.
I mean, yeah, how old it? He's not that old yet either. 26. It's gonna be 27 by the start of the year.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, maybe not top 10, but you could definitely, if we were talking about putting Zach Ertz in the top 15 range, I think Mark Andrews finds that spot too.
he runs a
I mean, look at
4.6740. That's pretty good for a tight end.
to 2021, 107 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 9 touchdowns. That's Travis Kelce numbers right there,
Yeah.
or that's Gronk numbers. I mean, and we even mentioned a couple guys that just don't catch touchdowns. 10, 7, 9, 5 was, a down year for him this year, and that was Goddard's best year ever in his career.
Also, his career long reception is 85 yards. Can you imagine a tight end running 85 yards for a touchdown? Like
Dude,
that's
he's a
wild.
hell of a receiving threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So our number
Yeah.
two, I
Number
think,
two.
goes back to what we were saying of a dream tight end is someone that catch 1,000 yards and be a sixth offensive lineman. And I mean, he might be better than most teams' offensive linemen. I mean, historically, I mean, he's one of the greatest blocking tight ends I think ever. I think you put him there with some offensive linemen, the guy's constantly pancaking people, but he
Hmm.
gives you enough in the passing game too. I don't think he's been asked to do it very much lately. The fact that you have Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk kind of helps.
Hmm.
But all in all, George Kittle is like the perfect tight end.
Yeah, I also have George Kittle here, number two.
Guys like Goddard and Hawkinson are like the Bud Light of George Kittle. They're just the light beer version of George Kittle. George Kittle is what everyone wants in a tight end. Just blocking, receiving ability, just all around baller.
I think also he's one of those players where his stats aren't they're pretty good, honestly. But he's way beyond like a stats evaluation. Like you have to watch his game to understand how talented he is.
Oh, he's
He's
incredible.
he's such an old school player too because he will just like throw his body at people. He's like if a WWE wrestler decided to play football like that. That's who I would imagine. Like body on the line, he does not care. He is giving 1,000% every snap, and he has so much fun playing football too. Like he's like
Oh
a little
yeah.
kid out there. Um, yeah, I don't really have any gripes with George Kittle. There's just one guy ahead of him that's the greatest tight end of all time, honestly.
I
And
mean, he's definitely in that argument. He's
I don't think it's an argument. I think he is the greatest, but
I mean, you're talking him and Gronk for the rest of his career. Hey,
him,
Gronk
Gronk,
set the
and
bar pretty high.
Gonzalez, I would say.
To be honest, the way the league is nowadays with the passing records those two guys are putting up, I don't even think Gonzalez is in this argument anymore. And maybe I'm
Yeah.
just a recent NFL bias kind of person, but like if you factor in how excellent of a blocker Gronk is, and now you just factor in how Travis Kelce is he's just competing with number one wide receivers with his numbers every single year.
Yeah,
And I mean, it's a team game, but Travis Kelce wins. Tony Gonzalez never won.
that's fair.
Same with
But
Gronk.
final thoughts on Kittle. I think it's also crazy how he'll like he's been like good for yards his most of his career, as long as he's played games. But his touchdowns have never been crazy high. And then last year he had 11. So
Well, hey, situation.
yeah, and I think the 49ers have crazy talent. Like you have one of the best running backs in the league, one of the best playmakers in Debo, one of the best tight ends. I mean, quarterback's obviously a question. One of the
Yeah,
best
but it's just
lines.
it's something that I don't. I'm like surprised it hasn't taken out. Some players, of course, some teams are doing it, but I'm surprised this trend hasn't taken off more. Look at the Niners offense. Guys like George Kittle who can block and receive. Guys like Christian McCaffrey who can run and receive. Guys like
Mhm.
Deebo Samuel who can run and receive. Guys like
Multifaceted,
Kyle
yeah.
Juszczyk, even like he's a fullback, he blocks really
Yeah.
well, but he can go and receive the ball. Ayuk can block. Like there's just multi-talented players. It's just yeah, it seems like something that's going to happen more, or at least it should. That's why they drafted Trey Lance, is because he's a guy who can run and throw the ball. He
Well,
might lose his job, but
yeah.
it's just it fits the trend. George Kittle fits that offense because he's more than one dimension.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's tough to kind of put all that together and then not have a quarterback. Obviously, we saw that in the playoffs, but
I
um,
mean, listen, you got that much around you, it'll be pretty easy to play quarterback whoever they're taking. But
yeah.
I mean, look at guys like Darren Waller and Kyle Pitts. George Kittle is arguably a better receiving threat when he's on, and it's not even close when it comes to blocking.
Yeah, this it's funny because this list is weird because we know everyone knows the general ranking of these tight ends, and we're just kind of like bragging who's better at this point. It's not like, oh well, this guy did this guy, and it's like, they're all really good. But
Yeah, it's true.
transitioning to the guy who is really, really good, and let me get George Kittle's measurements for you. 6'4", 250. All these tight ends are the same. They're all 6'4", 6'5", 240 to
Listen, this is
260.
this
It's
is
like
making you so happy.
no, it's just so funny. Like, I mean, that's what they're supposed to. Even Kyle Pitts, for as lean as he is, he's like 248 pounds.
Well,
So,
when you're like 6'6" or whatever it is.
yeah, he's 6'6". Let's see. All right. But moving on, we have obviously oh, that's Jason Kelsey. Hold on. Our number one tight end. I need Travis stats. Travis Kelsey coming in at 6'5", 256 pounds.
Yeah,
Uh, 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All Pro, 2-time Super Bowl champ, Hall of Fame, all 2010s team, Mr. Travis Michael Kelsey. Um, yeah, I mean, I even looking at his stats is terrifying because I see 20. I mean, he's been in the league for a while. 2013, he didn't play. 2014, 800 yards. 2015, 800 yards, and then after that, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, and they kept getting higher,
seven
like
seven
1,300,
straight years of 1,000 yards
1,400.
as a
Yeah,
tight end.
and his touchdowns are also like 5, 5, 8, 10, 5, 11, 9, 12, like crazy. And but here's what you look at, which is how you know someone's really good. His yards per reception was like almost the same throughout the entire time. He sat around 12 to like 13 and a half the whole 8 years of the 1,000 yard receiving. So he's crazy.
It's insane. I mean,
He's
he
crazy.
puts up number one wide receiver numbers. Like
Yeah.
that's the, it, the look at his numbers from last year. Mind you, this is the Chiefs team that lost Tyreek Hill. This is their first year without Tyreek Hill, their number one receiver. He goes for 110 catches,
Mm-hmm.
1,338 yards, and 12 touchdowns.
Yep.
Mind you, he won a Super Bowl, so the Jason Hayward effect immediately boosts his year a little bit more because everyone in the Super Bowl team does well. But I just want to just to put this in context, like we're not he shouldn't even be in the context of like who's the best tight end, who's the best
Mm-hmm.
pass catcher in the NFL. His 110 receiving receptions was third best in the entire NFL, regardless of position. His yards was two, four, six, eighth best, regardless of position. Just insane. His touchdowns, second best, regardless of position. This guy is, if I blindfold you and showed you his numbers, he's a number one wide receiver. He's a $20 million a year number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
And he just does it in the tight end position. And he's so good. It's him and Gronk. That's your argument. That's your GOAT argument. It's one or the other.
Yeah. I mean, I would still go. I think Kelsey. I think he's just more dominant, to be honest. I know Gronk had his time. I think Gronk was more of a touchdown machine, but
I mean, I'm still taking Gronk just because the pass blocking aspect, and I mean, he was a monster when it came to receiving. Like, I know Kelsey is too, but man, Gronk was putting up some of those. Like, Gronk was putting up very similar numbers to that.
he so Kelsey, I'm looking at his career stats. 814 receptions in his career to 12 fumbles. So he's only fumbling on like 0.01% of his catches.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
that's pretty. It's not bad. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way. It's definitely not bad.
I mean, he
I mean,
had
if you
half
factor in,
half of his fumbles were in his first three seasons. And then he had like one. He's had one every year in the last 4 years. But
you know what, the only thing I would say that he could probably take the argument from Gronk is that he's been much healthier. Gronk has been
yeah,
obviously has been worn out. I think when
which is
Gronk was
also
healthy,
wild.
I mean, listen, people would tee off on Gronk. He played a more physical game than what Travis Kelsey plays.
Sure.
When you have to when you're run blocking and you got to play for the Patriots, who are doing live football, tackling drills every day of the week for the 9 months of the year.
Yeah.
I just think Travis Kelsey could be in that is probably the GOAT conversation. It's too tight. You could go either way, and I wouldn't argue with it.
I mean, I'm looking and I'm seeing
I mean, the guy
16,
doesn't miss
16,
games.
16, 15, 16, 16, 15, 16, 17. He played a full season the last 2 years. Uh, yeah, hard to argue that, especially for
He's
him, like for his amount of volume he gets. He
yeah.
has over 130 targets every year. So he's
Oh, he's incredible. He really is incredible. He's so good. He's like pat, just pass catchers. Where's Travis Kelsey rank? We did the top 10 wide receivers.
mhm. I
He's probably number
mean,
three for me, maybe
yeah,
behind
he's
Adams and Jefferson.
he's yeah, I would put him right there.
I mean, you could make it.
Maybe
Honestly,
even maybe even number one. I don't.
yeah, he could be a number one on that list too. It's
He
kind of
could
crazy.
be number
He could
one.
be number one on the. I actually, you know what? It's more than I thought. Now that you think about it aloud, if we did top 10 wide receivers and tight ends, I think Travis
Well, there
Kelsey
would be
might be
only one
is
tight
probably
end
my
on
number
the
one.
entire list.
Well, that's true. I think Travis Kelsey is my number one. Just pass
Ah,
catcher. I feel like he's the best pass catcher in the league.
he's also like the most reliable, I feel like.
He's money every single year. You know what you're getting. Sure, he plays with Patrick Mahomes, but dude, he was incredible this year and they lost Tyreek Hill and they had some bums around him playing wide receiver. Like there's a testament to that too. When you go out there every single day and they know they're throwing the ball to you and you still can't stop them.
Yeah, and he's also been since 2016. He's been either one or two in the AP Players of the Year for his position. So what does that tell you?
No, man, he's just there's no point in even ranking him on the tight end list anymore. Just put him on a pass catchers list.
Yeah, yeah. But it's kind of now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, I've said it's crazy like quite a lot today. I don't know why, but the fact that Mahomes and Kelsey are in this like entire other universe with the position groups that they play in is, and they're on the same team, is pretty remarkable. That's pretty rare.
I think
So,
that's a good poll to do though. Who's better? Who's better right now? Travis Kelsey, Devontae Adams, or Justin Jefferson?
hmm, that's tough.
My vote's probably going to Travis Kelsey.
I mean, if I need like 10 yards or I need a touchdown, I'm probably throwing to Travis.
I mean, listen, Travis can cook those cornerbacks in the middle of the field. He can also, body up some linebackers. He's
Let's
getting double
see.
teams.
Let's see his oh, what the PFF doesn't have his speed. It's because he's so fast they can't record it. But
Yeah,
in case it wasn't relevant that he's the number one tight end. PFF numbers, targets number one for tight ends, receptions number one, receiving yards number one, touchdowns number one. Dude's he's an animal. What an animal.
and I know he's older. He's 33.
I was gonna say he's gonna be 34 by October.
I mean, he looks like he's getting better though.
Yeah. Well, he just had his arguably his best season.
Yeah,
As career high in catches, career high in yards by 2 yards. He had 336 in 2018, and career high in touchdowns. So that literally his best year was last year. That's
listen, their
crazy.
dad, their dad must look like Arnold Schwarzenegger because these two Kelsey brothers, I swear, they're getting better as they get older. Jason is, I think, the best he's ever been now. I think
It
Travis is the
does make
best he's ever been
sense.
now. Like
Does
they're
make
getting
sense.
better every single year, and it's not like they're just like getting better. Like they were incredible to begin with, and they just keep pushing the bar. Like I don't know what happens in the Kelsey genes, but they seem to just enhance as they get older.
Yeah, that's I think also though they just like kind of how we said about Kittle, like they just love the game. Like they just love
It's
going out
true.
and competing. They love playing. They
Good
actually have
personalities.
passion for the sport, which I think is lost in a lot of players that come into the game nowadays. But
Very true. So, final question before we sign off here: better WWE superstar, George Kittle or Travis Kelsey? I think they both got the personality for it.
wait, say it again.
Who's the better WWE superstar, Travis Kelsey or George Kittle? If you had to take one and put
That
him in the WWE, who's it going to be?
that's that's
See,
that's
Travis is.
tough.
I
They
think
would both be great in the WWE,
tr
but
Travis would be
I don't
great on the
know.
mic and like having extra swag, but I could see George Kittle winning a like world heavyweight title. I'm going with George Kittle. He's got enough mic skills, I think, to offset that he's a bruiser. Travis Kelsey, I think, could do a little more, a little more pizzazz. But
I think Kittle would
I
fit
don't.
better.
I
But
think his suplex is better.
what is their WWE comparison? Who's their comparisons? Because I'm thinking George Kittle got to
Travis,
be someone who's like a little crazy.
yeah. See, Travis Kelsey would have to be someone that I
I
think
feel
is
like The
better out
Rock.
of the ring.
I feel like The Rock is a
Yes,
good Travis
yeah.
Kelsey comparison.
He's more. I think he's more of a showman than he is actually like a wrestler technician.
Yeah, I feel like
Where George Kittle could be like Brock Lesnar. Like, I mean, he's not as big, but he's like I could see him just hitting suplexes all day, just constant suplexes.
who's like yeah, but I'm trying to think like, who was like a really crazy. Like I feel like I was gonna say The Edge, but he wasn't really like a crazy guy. Like who would
No,
George
Brock
Kittle?
Lesnar. He's the
I don't
smaller version
know.
of Brock Lesnar.
Not Brock Lesnar.
You put George Kittle in the ring, I guarantee you he's suplexing everyone.
Oh, probably he's just probably having the time of his life, smiling the whole time too.
See, George Kittle, world heavyweight champion when he's
Okay,
done with football.
you heard it here first. Somebody else was doing that. There was a player who went into wrestling. I forget who it was. Oh well, but
Until next time,
until
it'll
next time.
come back to you.
Yeah. Actually, hold on. Let me just look real quick because now it's gonna bother me.
You can't go to
NFL
sleep now.
NFL player to wrestler. Let's just see if there's anything out there.
Well, I mean, Brock
Well,
Lesnar
Brock
had a
Lesnar,
cup of
yeah.
coffee. He had a cup of coffee in
Uh,
that NFL. They played for the Vikings for a little bit.
The Rock, I think, had to try out. Uh,
Miami football great. The U.
Goldberg. Goldberg was
You
in
know
the
what?
NFL.
That's who. Actually, not Brock Lesnar.
Yeah,
Brock Lesnar's just inhuman.
Goldberg.
George Kittle is Goldberg. Yep,
Okay.
that's it. I can see that. Yeah, his Brock Lesnar's too much. He's a one of one. Like he's just there's not humans. The human species doesn't include Brock Lesnar. Goldberg is a physical freak, but so is George Kittle. I think they fit the game together.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, they're both. It's funny because I feel like the tight end position is very WWE wrestler type. I don't know
He's a great
why.
tight end.
Just
Listen,
just get rough with people.
it fits WWE so well because they block, they're physical, but they're also charismatic and diva superstar 1K receivers. It's the perfect mixture.
Yeah. Well, that was a pretty uneventful list. I mean, tight ends are usually that way, but
It is what it is.
top five was exactly the same. I don't know how we should feel about that. Maybe we're just too smart for each other.
I mean, we had the same exact top 10, I want to say. Yeah, minus.
Did we have?
Yeah, we did. You had Njoku and Schultz switched, and Waller and Pitts switched.
Oh yeah, damn. That's. I don't think that's a first, but it's not common that that happens.
Well, I'm glad that I had Evan Ingram as my honorable mention to make it different, to hear something other than what you were saying all day.
Yeah, but you also said Dawson Knox, so
That's true.
not
Well, hey,
not that different.
I got Ingram, so
All
either
right,
or.
fair enough, fair enough.
I
So
think we got two good poll questions. that make it more exciting.
Okay.
Who's better right now? Kelsey, Adams, or Jefferson? And who's the better WWE superstar, Kittle or Kelsey?
All right, people. Sound it off. Send us a DM, let us know. I'll throw a poll up on the gram and see what the people think.
Sounds good. Well, until next time, my friend.
All right. Peace out.
Peace.
Thank you again for listening to the Post-Fades and Cheesesteaks Sports Podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe on all your major platforms. Follow us on YouTube. Follow the show on Spotify and Apple. And follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Have a great day, and tune in next week.